Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulillah. Welcome to another edition of Muslim Skeptic Live. This is your brother Daniel Haqiqatjou, and I'm here with special guest, brother Tariq. Assalamu alaikum, brother Tariq. How are you?
Hello, alaikum. What's up?
Not much. I wanted to invite you to Muslim Skeptic Live. You invited me to your high school MSA earlier this past year, and now you're a senior in high school. And I thought that a lot of times I talk about Muslim youth, and other people talk about Muslim youth, the state of Muslim youth, and rarely do we actually talk to Muslim youth directly and get their understanding, get their perspective. And I think that we can benefit, especially from someone like you, mashallah, very smart, bright kid, or young man, I should say. And I think it's important to see from your perspective what you think is the state of Muslim youth, what you think is the situation affecting you as an American Muslim teenager, and your ideas on the direction of the Muslim community. So, that's my motivation for having you on, and I'm very happy for you to be here.
Jazakallah. I'm happy to be on, happy to be with you and share my point of view.
Great, inshallah. So I thought one of the ways that we can talk about some of the relevant issues affecting Muslim youth is a video that went viral called Do All Muslims Think the Same? And I think we both had the same reaction when we saw this video. It's very cringeworthy, but it's interesting. This video has millions of views. It's been shared countless times, and you have supposedly average, conventional American Muslims who are giving their views on Islam, giving their views on all kinds of issues like hijab, prayer, salah. And so they're young. And so when I saw this, I was like, oh man, if this is the state of American Muslims, this is a really bad sign. This is actually quite alarming. Thankfully, I don't think that they're average. I think they were hand-picked and hand-selected. Like, what do you think about that?
Well, from my experience, there's definitely people I've met who have a lot of similar views, especially I used to go to Islamic school before high school, and there are a lot of the students, especially the females, who shared a lot of those progressive Muslim views. And now in high school, again, most of the females share those kind of progressive Muslim views. It's not as bad as the video. It seems like in the video, most of them were pretty progressive. From where I am, I'd say like half of our Muslim youth population fall onto that side.
But that's bad. That's terrible.
Yeah, it's definitely not a good state either way for the Muslim community, or the Ummah in general.
Okay, yeah, so we can watch this video inshallah, and I'll pause it, and then we'll react. And then afterwards we can maybe talk about like what's causing these kinds of problems and weird ideas about Islam. Okay, so let me just share it now. Okay, Bismillah.
I pray 5 times a day. 3, 2, 1.
I wish I was there with you guys. Honestly, it just gets really hard. Like, it's just 5 times a day. It's like spread throughout the day. We all live like young professional lives, and it gets kind of in the way. If I could quantify it.
So that guy right off the bat says prayer gets in the way.
Oh my God! It's just like, I feel the issue is the point of view. Like, it's just our priorities, and I definitely see that. I used to not pray 5 times a day. I used to struggle with it a lot. I know a lot of people still do. He just said, it was annoying. It's in the way. People just are prioritizing the dunya and what, especially the youth, because that's all we're taught, to pursue success and this hedonistic lifestyle, and we're kind of putting the deen to the side. You know, we still want to have Muslim as part of our identity, but it's not the primary part.
Right. Yeah, I just it's kind of a backwards mentality to even say that salah, prayer, just gets in the way. Like, okay, you can maybe feel that it's inconvenient, but that's a problem, right? That's a problem that you have to get over. But this guy is just as if that's his current perspective, and he thinks that he's justified in saying that prayer gets in the way. So, I mean, and then to openly like admit that, yeah, currently I'm not praying 5 times a day is a problem, because even if a person is struggling with this, they shouldn't admit it and they shouldn't advertise it, because then that normalizes it and that makes other people think that, oh, it's okay. Whereas if someone privately, like even when I was in high school, like I had a big challenge like trying to pray 5 times a day, and that was part of growing up, part of becoming a stronger Muslim. But I wasn't going around and telling people, oh yeah, I'm missing prayers all the time. It's just so inconvenient, right? So this is something that, yeah, I don't know why. I think that some Muslims think that they're bragging if they say that they pray 5 times a day, or they are putting others down, but that's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, especially, you know, I forget. I came up once, you know, a few years ago with a couple of kids in the MSA, you know, how can people pray a day? And, you know, the people who said, you know, I pray all prayers a day, they were labeled by others as conservative Muslims. Like, if you follow the deen, you're basically a Salafi to them. You know, you're a strict, you know, Saudi guy just because you do the bare minimum, which is definitely weird, and it just isn't the right perspective.
That's a weird way to bully someone. Make fun of them for praying 5 times a day. Anyway, so let's continue this.
I'm averaging about 3 out of 5 prayers. I think I will find myself in prayer more when I'm in desperation. It's not something that's subjective. I know we should be all praying as a requirement.
I just want to say it takes a lot of guts to be honest and say that. I honestly believe that if you feel it in your heart that you have a strong relationship with God, God will have mercy on you with whatever you're dealing with. So,
and being on this line doesn't mean it's like a piece of cake to do the 5 daily prayers. It is a struggle. It's a challenge. I was working in a corporate environment where I could not comfortably find a space, so I'd have to go pray in the car or in the parking lot. So it is a challenge, but yeah.
Okay. So what do you think about praying? As long as you love God in your heart, then it's okay.
Yeah, that's definitely a very kind of a Western Christian kind of thing, where they're just like, oh, if you love Jesus, whatever, you're good, you're going to heaven. Yeah. People definitely mix up a lot of these American spiritual values, which is not how Islam is. I definitely get like kind of hippie-ish vibes from that African Muslim. Just kind of just, you know, as long as we are loving God, you know, kumbaya, all that stuff, we're good. Yeah. But I do agree with the other woman who was talking about how, her struggles in the corporate world. Definitely, it's hard to find time and prayer space to pray in school. I work in the medical environment too. It's hard to take off time to pray when you're between patients and you have a crazy workload. But I mean, as Muslims, you know, that should be our number one obligation, and we should make time if we can, as hard as it may be.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I was in the corporate environment, and you know, I'd just be honest with my employer, like, I have to pray and at these times during the day, and it was usually perfectly fine. And even if they, like, their only kind of issue was if they scheduled a meeting, like an important meeting, and it happened to be right during Jummah time on Friday. And so then I'd have to say, like, look, I really have to miss this meeting. And they want to be happy about it, but they're also very careful because there's legal restrictions. They can't, like, force you, or it could be considered discrimination, and the company could be liable to discriminate based on religion for you as an employee. So they're very sensitive about that. Usually in the American context, it's not a problem, but it's just a matter of like, personally, are you going to be able to do it and take on that kind of awkward situation where you're talking to your employer, a non-Muslim, about prayer, and like religion is the last taboo within the work context. So that's very, but that one hippie that's saying, as long as you have it in your heart. This is sadly, I mean, everyone here in this video agreed with that. Like no one, and they didn't show anyone within the video saying, no, I don't agree. No, prayer is actually an obligation. Like, it's not just what's in your heart. They all were on the same page. So they all do think the same on this question, at least, on prayer. Okay, let's continue.
Promotes violence. 3, 2, 1.
We're not allowed to cut down trees during war. We're not allowed to hurt children and mothers. We're not allowed to hurt our own prisoners. And when people associate terrorism, something so disgusting, with Islam, it hurts me, because ISIS targets Muslims more than they target anybody else.
And in the age of Google, there's no excuse. Like, if you don't know that Islam means peace, Islam means surrender, being a Muslim is one who submits their will to God, how is that violent? Like, at the end of the day, I feel like media is the one that has that hand and that stronghold causing folks to be that way or think that way.
I guess I literally listened to the prompts, does Islam promote violence? And I'm only speaking not from my personal perspective, but just from trying to understand how discussions about this religion can be used to defame it, to justify terrorism per se. When somebody says, and for the record, kill a non-believer, let's acknowledge that sentence. And if we're going to reach a conclusion and a solution with somebody who does think this way of us and our faith, we need to understand their argument thoroughly.
But
I disagree with what you just said.
Please.
I just laughed because it's like, for the record, kill all non-believers. They edited the video in an awkward way. For the record, kill all non-believers.
And there's all the when, like, I strongly disagree. It's definitely, I mean, I see what he's trying to do, but it doesn't work at all. Like, that whole video, he's all, some would agree, some would disagree. It's a very nuanced argument. It doesn't really work.
Yeah, I mean, I feel for him, because he knows that there is violence advocated in Islam. The verse that they're talking about is not like a difficult verse to explain. Like, kill them wherever you find them. In the Quran, just read the verse right before it. And the verse right before it says, the context of kill them wherever you find them is that if they fight you, then fight back. And don't go into excess, right? So it's like, if someone attacks you, then yeah, of course you have to defend yourself. But the fact of the matter is that violence is a part of Islam. The question that should be asked, like, does Islam promote violence? The question that should be asked is, is violence always bad? Is violence always bad? And that's not the case. Like, we all acknowledge that sometimes violence is very important. Violence is good. Sometimes violence is necessary. Just look at the police force. Look at every country in the world has a military, okay, and a military uses violence, right? So no one opposes the military because it's violent. So why is Islam being bashed for having violence within it? So it's a very easy thing to respond to.
Absolutely. I mean, it's taken, especially, there's a lot of people who advocate against violence in general. As I said, that hippie girl. So I think it's more looking at it from kind of the youthful, progressive lens of, anti-death penalty, anti-whatever, anti-military, which is not the viewpoint Islam takes. So it's kind of, it does advocate for violence for certain things, like you said. We have our hudud. We believe in having a military. We believe in defending yourselves, and there's nothing objectively wrong with that. It's just that if they think something's wrong with it, then they're going to frame it as something that's negative, but it's not inherently a negative thing.
Right.
But in the eyes of our youth, that's definitely becoming more a negative thing because of these secular ideals.
Right. There's like this propaganda against Islam coming from these Islamophobia networks saying, oh, Islam is violent, Islam promotes violence. And then rather than like taking a step back and analyzing the question, we have a lot of people, a lot of Muslim organizations or figures or whatever who have been preaching, no, Islam is peace, Islam is peace. Like, this is falling into a trap, because if you preach to people that Islam means peace, then you have to reject, or you have to have a problem with a lot of verses in the Quran, or a lot of hadith, or a lot of aspects of Islamic law. And so this tactic is turning Muslims against their own religion, and it's very clear. Like, let's just keep playing this video, and you can see what this lady says. Because the guy was saying that, oh yeah, there is violence in the Quran, and this is what she says.
I do, because I read the Quran every day as a practice, and not once in 2019 have I yet gotten to a verse about violence. All of them about mercy of God, turn to God, God is with you.
And look at this guy's face.
That's an emotional connection.
Look at the guy's face. He's speechless. You've never come across a verse that had to do with fighting, that had to do with like
even if saying just like the punishment of Jahannam,
yeah, that's violent. Yeah.
I mean, that's violence, but it's part of the deen. If you don't do good in this life, you're gonna be punished. That's violence.
Exactly.
And I mean, you're way off if you're just gonna go ahead and say, oh, in all of 2019 we've never I've never read a single verse. Like, you're just lying to yourself.
Yeah, it's just bizarre. It's just like, I never read a verse that preaches violence. Like, so this is the kind of cognitive dissonance that you have to have when you buy into something that is false. That Islam means peace. Like, Islam is not a pacifist religion, right? So here, let's keep playing what he says.
That is an emotional connection to my Creator.
Sure.
And I'm not going to allow anybody to take that away.
I'll take what the sentence.
Emotional connection with my Creator. Like, that's all it is. It's just emotion.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, she's not looking at it logically. I mean, she's trying to balance having her Western progressive ideals with having her Islamic identity, which it doesn't work out. There's no shared common ground between, I guess, the end goal of either system of belief she's following.
Right.
So she's trying to, keep herself in that kind of, I'm a minority, I'm a Muslim, I'm whatever. Yeah. But she also wants to advocate for progressivism, which doesn't work out.
Right.
She just has to turn a blind eye to nearly all of the deen just to try to fit into the deen.
Right. So one person here in the comments, Rubaiyat, says, guys, violence is not the right term. Violence is not the right term. Violence is violence, right? Violence means, if you look at capital punishment, like you mentioned hudud, or like lashing is mentioned in the Quran for the zani, right? Someone who commits illegal fornication, unmarried, they get lashes as prescribed in the Quran. Or cutting the hand of the thief. Okay, this is part of hudud. Is cutting the hand of the thief violent? Of course, that's a violent act, but it's violence that is from the state, is from the judge has to rule that yes, this person is a thief and he has stolen a certain threshold amount that justifies the had being applied to him, and then the punishment of cutting the hand is violent. What other word do you have for that? And
I think it's just the context or the implication of the word violent.
Yeah, well, I think this is a problem that within the Western mentality, it's anything that the state does, anything that the government does, is not violent? Or what word would you use for it? Like, what word do you use for a police officer coming and arresting someone and handcuffing them, pointing a gun at them, and, you know, throwing them in jail? That's all violence, right? Yeah. So I think the word is being used in a way that, in a very selective way. And then when it comes to like hand cutting in particular, I think this is a very wise, important law within the Sharia, within Islamic law, that all countries really should adopt this, because this is protecting people's property rights. This is protecting people from being taken advantage of, being oppressed through theft. And look at how much stealing, look at how much people's property rights are being violated in the modern world. It's a huge injustice because people are constantly stealing from each other. You have corruption that is taking people's wealth. You have companies on Wall Street that are gambling with people's money. What about Bernie Madoff? How many millions and millions of dollars did he steal from people? Yeah, I want people like that to be afraid that they're going to be punished in a very violent way so that they won't do this injustice to people. But we are embarrassed about, you know, this wisdom, this hikmah within the Quran, within Islamic law, because of whatever connotation or you know, bad perspective non-Muslims have in the modern world.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with what you're saying there.
So, all right, let's. And the commenter said, I totally agree with what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, so violence doesn't mean being unjust. Violence or fighting, qital, it doesn't necessarily mean violence is a tool, right? Just like a knife is a tool, a hammer is a tool. You use it as needed. It can be misused, yes. But that doesn't you know, invalidate the utility of the knife or the hammer or the gun or whatever, or the sword or whatever. All right, let's keep going.
The statement that you can kill the non-believers. At the time of the Holy Prophet, the Muslims were endangered. They were the minority, right?
That's what I'm saying.
So, but it doesn't necessarily mean that because we are in danger that whenever there's a non-believer, we kill them. What non-believer refers to are like the Meccans, or like the people that were actively going against Muslims and trying to harm us and stuff.
And I wanted this healthy discourse.
Yes, and
because I dwell upon that other perspective. I didn't grow up proud of those verses because I didn't understand them.
Yeah,
but now that I do have full understanding, I know that it's important to keep not a one-dimensional perspective, but not even accept the others, but thoroughly understand it.
The job should be mandatory. 3, 2, 1.
All right, hijab should be mandatory. Most everyone of them disagree.
That's one guy.
There's some that somewhat agree, but let's see.
I have strong feelings. I just feel like it's a woman's right to cover if she wants to, and to tell a woman what to do with her body is totally against our Islamic principles. So,
you know, being a guy here, I just made a really conscious decision to be like somewhat agree, because people don't understand that.
Okay, so sorry. Let's comment on what the hippie Muslim said.
What a woman to do with their body. I mean, it's not just women. Islam has laws and instructions on how to act for everyone, women and men. It's not just, telling hijab. We use hijab in contemporary to just refer to the headscarf, but hijab, it's just covering yourself. It's modesty. It's awra. And there's rules and restrictions for men too. It's not just telling a woman what to do with her body. And I feel like her you can't tell what a woman what to do with her body also extends not just to modesty, but it'll extend to things like abortion rights or all these other things that Islam is absolutely fundamentally against.
Yeah, there's like a deep misunderstanding here. We don't own our bodies. Our bodies are an amana from Allah. We have a creator who has allowed us to use our bodies, but we don't own our bodies. Allah is the one who is the owner of them and of all of our bodies. So He has the right to tell us what to do with our bodies and to have requirements for how we cover our bodies, where we put our bodies, how we act with our bodies. That's within Allah's right, and then we don't have the right to say, oh no one has the decision, no one has the right to tell us, it's all up to ourselves. We have full autonomy. So it's like a complete misunderstanding. By the way, there is a super chat within YouTube. Mac Abir says, Assalamu alaikum, thank you for your knowledge. You turned me away from liberal fitna from high school. So Jazakallah khairah, Mac, for your contribution. We really appreciate it. Alhamdulillah, I'm glad that these videos are helping you. Okay, so continue. What else do you want to say about this? About hijab being mandatory?
If mandatory means that it's decreed by Allah and everyone should do it, just as Salah is, it definitely should be. It's mandatory in Islam. If you don't wear hijab, it's sin.
Yeah, it's a sin. You're liable for that in front of Allah, and Allah can take you to account for violating His decree and His command. So it's very clear, but again, there's these liberal ideas that are confusing Muslims, and especially young Muslims, that, well, we've been told over and over and again by the left that it's a woman's body, it's her choice, no one can tell me how to dress, that's slut shaming, blah blah blah. So then you have a conflict between Islam and this kind of liberal progressive mindset, and you have confusion like this.
I think it's just a conflict between it's the individualistic Western lifestyle where, you know, it's your body, it's your rights, it's your life. You know, you do whatever you want as long as you're not hurting anyone. That's the way they view life, and you know, their definition of hurting someone is not the same as Islam's. You know, they focus on the individual. They don't think of society as a whole. You know, they think they can do whatever they want to do it as long as, you know, they don't think about the societal repercussions of normalizing an action or a way of
exactly. Like when it comes to normalize degeneracy and women kind of being naked in public, and you have advertisements. I mean, now they're starting. You have even some of these progressives realizing that, wow, we're creating all this depression for young girls because they're bombarded with images of supermodels and these, you know, dressed up, photoshopped women bearing all. And so our young girls are being sexualized at a young age, and they're falling into depression because they don't live up to those standards. So now you have some progressives who are saying, no, we have to dictate and we have to control what is shown in the public sphere so our daughters won't be negatively impacted. So this shows the contradiction within their own philosophy about something like hijab. Like they're recognizing that, okay, this is actually something, modesty matters. Modesty has an impact on the human psyche, but this is something that Islam has always recognized and implemented. Okay, let's continue.
Hijab is like a concept as far as like, it's not just like the actual headscarf. Islam really promotes the idea of modesty, and that's how you get closer to God. And if you feel like having a headscarf is a way for you to get closer to God, then so be it.
100% I agree with that, because it's not just a headscarf, it's your behavior, it's your personality, it's how you treat your friends and your neighbors. Yeah, for a lot of people, the process is build my courage, my bravery, my confidence, and then wear the scarf. For me, it was kind of reverse. I started with the scarf because I knew that I was not going to build that bravery unless I started wearing it. Because when you put it on, you start acting different. You start acting nicer, you're kinder, because now you're representing your religion, your faith.
You make me think really deep about that, because I've been struggling. I wore it when I was about 15. I tried it out. But it's been a struggle because internally I want to be a better Muslima, that I'm going to represent to society before my outer side represents Islam.
And that's weird. I mean, they said a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, they made a lot of like actually valid points in saying, you know, hijab isn't just covering yourself up. You know, you can cover yourself up and then go roll up a blunt. You know, It doesn't matter. Just like I said, it's a behavior. You can cover yourself up as a guy, but if you're wearing really tight muscle shirts, what are you covering up? Just the color of your skin at that point?
Yeah.
Like it's a behavior. It's a lifestyle. It's a mindset, and they're absolutely right in what they're saying. But they're on the right path, but they reach the wrong conclusion where it's like, it isn't, whatever makes you comfortable.
Right.
It's not just, if the headscarf makes you comfortable, that's good. But if something else makes you comfortable, that's all right. That's not how it works. If Allah says, this is the way it should be done. This is the way you reach, you fulfill your modesty. You fulfill, the bar that He set for us. Then that's what you have to do. There's no however you feel. It's however Allah wants it to be.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. So it's a lot of commandments might be difficult to follow, but that's the point of a commandment. That's the point of it's your Creator telling you to do this or to not do this. And so that's what Islam means. As a Muslim, you submit, even if it's not comfortable at first. You struggle, and then Allah will reward you for that struggle that you're making. But yeah, when they're saying that hijab is a system, because hijab is not technically like what they're referring to, khimar, over the hair, what covers the hair, and what should ideally like come down over you. Khimar, jilbab, those are the articles of clothing. Those are the technical terms for them, as used, for example, in the Quran. But hijab is more than that. It's separation of the genders, right? Separation of the genders, how you interact with the opposite sex, how you carry yourself modestly. Like if you're just wearing a headscarf, but then you're like going and dancing with guys, then are you really following hijab? So, all right, let's continue.
Discrimination for my religion. 3, 2, 1.
I have faced discrimination for my religion. So almost everyone says strongly agree.
So I'm not a traditional Muslim female. I don't wear the scarf. When I was younger, I'd be walking home from the masjid with my mom. She wears the hijab. This was before September 11th even happening. She would get teenagers in cars driving by, spitting on us, cursing at us. She would always say, just brush it off.
When you show that you're a Muslim in any way, people kind of like you get those glances every so often. But what happened was that after like all this like election things happened, it's funny, people who you grew up with, people who you knew your entire lives are kind of looking at you a little differently. So that kind of threw me off a little bit. I was like, wait a second, like, you know me. I didn't think this would be an issue,
I personally have not experienced explicit discrimination. I conveniently can shave my beard and try to compensate almost, and it's sad to admit, but I know it's not my job to create a comfort space for another person. However, I would say that if you do guys confront it explicitly, try to think of it as an opportunity to teach as opposed to reacting with emotion.
I think it also depends on what the encounter is. Like I had a beer bottle thrown at me after 9/11. I'm not going to go confront that person and be like, hey, let's build bridges.
Right.
Like it's not, no. But if there's someone who's got a little bit of an attitude or, misconception, I'll work on that.
All right. So what do you think about that?
I definitely would go in the strongly agree category. I went to Turkey over the summer, and just going there was, we missed our flight the first day because of TSA. I got patted down like at least 3 times.
Oh, wow.
And our extra long security check. Coming back also was a struggle, but I think I haven't really faced a lot of discrimination outside of, something institutional like the TSA. In school, maybe it's just the environment now. With the older Muslim people having, lived through 9/11 and everything following that. I was born a little bit after that time. My family experienced discrimination around that time, but there's not really much of that mentality here anymore. I mean, especially the area I am in North Jersey, it's a much more liberal, much more progressive area, so more people are very open-minded. So I would say outside of the airport, I haven't faced much discrimination in everyday life, but I have faced discrimination nonetheless
Yeah.
because of my deen.
Yeah, I think that's a good distinction that you're making between institutional discrimination and then on the personal level. Because I've definitely been hassled by the TSA. I've been hassled by other kinds of institutional forces, and my family definitely has. So this is something that a lot of Muslims experience. But then all the examples that they gave seem to be like personal, like someone just came up to them and was rude or would say mean things. I haven't really experienced that, and it's not just because I look white, because I often will wear like a full thobe, or I'll wear clothing that makes me look Muslim, very clearly Muslim, and I still don't really get hassled. Maybe I get like someone looking like weird, like screwing up their face, like being confused, like how is the guy wearing anything other than a t-shirt and jeans? Like it just blows my mind. But other than that, I really haven't faced any kind of discrimination. My family members, like my wife, will wear full jilbab, hijab, etc. And I haven't, in the past 11 years, there hasn't been really any overt acts of discrimination when we go out where people will be mean. And we live in Texas. We lived in Southern California and parts of the country that were very conservative. So I haven't really experienced that level of personal discrimination. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but is it like a huge problem that is going to that we should like be overly concerned about? I think the problem is this over concern.
Yeah, I mean, the only major occurrence I could think of anything that happening was a couple years back, where the 3 students in North Carolina were killed for their religion, and that was a tragedy. It was terrible.
Yeah.
But it's not. I mean, I guess it's a one-time incident. I haven't seen anything like that happen recently. Of course, people will say stories about discrimination, but it's not as big as it's framed to be. It's very overblown, and this over-victimization of Muslims is going to cause more issues for our ummah. The more you just want to see yourself through the lens of a victim, it's going to push you to take more drastic efforts. You say, we want to fit in, we want to be a protected community, and also, it's just not part of our deen to just sit there and be the victims. Allah wants us to be strong, to have resolve, to be steadfast, and not just sit there in self-pity for the duration of our lives in the Western world.
Yeah, for sure. I think the victim mentality is a great point that you're bringing up. All right, let's continue.
Equal to men. 3,
Are women equal
2,
to men?
1.
I'm gonna somewhat.
A lot of people said agree, strongly agree, and then that one brother said somewhat disagree.
No, the somewhat guy. Yeah.
The somewhat guy. Yeah, so then let's see what they say.
Change mine. Wow. I had to think about it.
So the reason I sit on agree and not strongly agree is that my understanding of human beings is that that women and men in general have different roles. Men cannot bear children, women do. In Islam, there's no discriminatory thing. There's nothing that a man can do that a woman cannot.
And I don't have to prove otherwise except to cite in the Quran when Allah addresses us, believing men and believing women. Same level.
No, disagree. I
read the Quran.
Verbatim.
I read the Quran.
In the court of law, the Quran explicitly states
I'm sorry.
2 female witnesses carry the weight of 1 male. And
I'm
that's why I
sorry.
stood over there. I personally feel, and if it were up to me, it would be 50-50. There is no discrimination on my personal bias, but
why are you standing there?
I'm acknowledging that the Quran prescribes something here, right?
No. In Islam,
No.
we do get equal
No,
opportunities.
no.
Scientifically,
I
no,
refuse.
we're not equal.
May I
Because
ask a question to the
men
room?
can do things physically that we can't do.
May I ask a question to the
Women
room?
can do things that men can't do. So my question would be, what aspect are we
Sure,
discussing?
a personal belief versus Islamic belief versus societal belief, that's three different things. If I'm saying personally, I believe women can be greater than men. I believe women have...
Islam says that.
However, can we acknowledge...
Thank you. Women can be greater than men. Yeah. Whee! Oh my God, this is... So go ahead. What's your reaction? Do you strongly disagree that men and women are equal?
There's so much to pick apart here. I mean, how do you define equal? Really, I mean, what they did bring up, a good point, which is equality versus, your roles.
Right.
Like, does Islam treat men and women equal? I mean, I'd say Islam treats us more equitable than equal. That Islam treats us as to how we should be treated based on our roles, based on our strengths and weaknesses. Islam acknowledges that men are physically stronger. Men are definitely emotionally stronger. Men are naturally better leaders. Women are better caregivers. They're, a man is not going to be able to raise a child, properly without, a woman's touch.
Excuse me, this is all really sexist, man.
Yeah, let's hope the school doesn't find this video.
Yeah, you're misogynist.
But a man's not going to manage a household like a woman can, and there are very distinct roles in Islam, and they're very clearly laid out within the Quran and the Hadith. And he's that the somewhat man. He always just takes Quranic verse out of context. He reminds me of all these ex-Muslims who think because they're a Muslim they're somehow on the same level as a scholar with their Islamic knowledge, because they can just pick out random verses of the Quran and say, look,
right,
inequality. And it's not a very bad argument, with the 2 women to 1 man thing. That's taken way out of context, easily explained.
So the thing is that there are these. It's a semantic issue, because as you said, how do you define equality? And when it comes to men and women being equal in the sense that Allah is going to judge them equally, right? You're not lesser than a man because of your gender. It's based on your actions, your taqwa, your ikhlas, your sincerity. These are all the things that Allah will judge us for on the Day of Judgment. And men and women are not going to have an advantage or a disadvantage because of their gender. But that doesn't mean that if we're talking about roles and responsibilities and even authority, that men and women are equal. And I think that's what the somewhat guy was referring to. Like in the Quran, there's clear distinction between the roles and responsibilities of men versus women. So when it comes to being witnesses, the inheritance, when it comes to the family context, al-rijalu qawwamuna 'ala an-nisa, men are authorities and caretakers over women, etc. So all of these things he's pointing to, and then our favorite is saying no.
It's gotta love,
That's
not.
Not.
God.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but like I said, you have to take it with context. People, anyone can be like, women don't get the same inheritance. But what's the context in Islam? Women are financially dependent on men, so men need more assets to be able to provide for the women and their family. It makes perfect sense when you look at things in context in Islamic Sharia. But people nowadays just love just talking and not actually thinking of the actual background or the reasoning for any of the rulings from Allah.
Yeah, I mean that's a great explanation. Like when it comes to inheritance and other of the distinctions between men and women, you can give a context and an explanation that will show you that actually this is in line with wisdom and in line with the nature of men and women, because our natures are very different. Allah has created men in a certain way, women in a certain way, and as much as modern society wants to say that no, men and women are exactly equal in every way and similar in exactly every way, that's going against human nature. That's going against science. That's going against what we are.
Absolutely.
All right, let's continue. Next one, you can be Muslim and part of the LGBT community.
3, 2, 1.
It's such a broad question that I'm gonna stand here just to be.
No, it's not. It's not.
I'm a contradictory human being. I pray with one hand and commit sin with the other. So I'm not in a position to be able to
Pray with one hand.
tell somebody that they're excluded from a whole faith if perhaps their faith in God is stronger than mine.
Okay, so you can be anything and be a Muslim, but I guess the reason I'm standing here is because Islam is a lot about the progression of the human race and about what is natural and what is not. Islam doesn't necessarily support like the lifestyle of the LGBT community. However, they do support them as human beings, and that is something like something that I've struggled with because.
In the waterworks.
They have my 100% love and support. I take a bullet for anybody. I don't care what their sexual orientation is. My best friend, he's gay, and we've had these conversations before, and he's told me that, you know what, Husna, I love you for you. I love you for everything that we've been through together. I don't care what it is that you stand for, and that's, it's really comforting to know that you don't have to support a lifestyle to support a human being, to love a human being, and to love people unconditionally.
I love what you said. Yeah, and that's why I'm here, because the prompt was, can you be LGBTQ and Muslim? And yes, you can be anything and Muslim. If we're going to get into the logistics of lifestyle practices and the core of Scripture, yes, there are different lifestyles or things that are asked for in Scripture, but there's nothing that says they are not welcome in the faith. They are not welcome in our houses of worship. They cannot pray. They cannot stand beside us. They don't fast. They are people.
It's very hard, I would say, to be a Muslim and
that is
to be part of the community.
No disagreement with that.
I agree with you.
Beautiful statement.
Alright, so
that was the show.
Why are you laughing, man? She was crying. You're so insensitive.
I'm just so insensitive to the LGBT people because I'm just a cis white hetero male.
You're cis het homophobe.
Exactly. Oh my god, that was.
Yeah, that was
where,
really.
Where do we start? Where do we start with that one? I mean, I guess let's answer the question. No.
Yeah, well, the thing is that how can you be? So what does it mean? Again, there's like a semantic confusion here, like. You can be committing same-sex behavior or like cross-dressing or like even getting surgery like to remove your junk. That's something that is sinful, and sins don't remove you out of Islam. So you can be a sinful Muslim. So we're agreed on that. But that's not what they're asking. They're asking, can you be a part of the LGBT community? So that means you're going out of your way and you're saying, I'm part of this community. And then when you get into that, it's like you're justifying the behavior. And you're saying, no, I am justified Islamically to be, practicing same-sex behavior, to get sex change surgery, to cross-dress, etc. And then that becomes a problem for Iman. That becomes like your Iman becomes questionable.
Yeah, I think I'd break it into like 3 levels. And there's like just having these type of feelings and not acting on it, you're not committing sin. If you're being rewarded for resisting these urges, even though if you have them. You can't, Islam doesn't punish anyone for, Islam doesn't talk about your sexuality or your urges. Islam talks about your actions. There's nothing wrong with these feelings. The second level is acting.
I would say that you can have certain feelings, but you have to control them, and you shouldn't dwell on them, right?
Exactly.
So even when you won't be punished necessarily, but if you dwell on them, that's kind of an action. It's not like a physical action, but you're consciously making the choice to like fantasize. Like for example, if I have if someone is a married man, and he's constantly fantasizing about other people's wives, like sexually, then that's a choice he's making, and that's sinful. But if he has for whatever reason, a sudden like burst of attraction to someone else's wife, then he has to like put that thought away and not dwell on it. So that's something that Islam does require, and it's same with same-sex attraction as well.
Yeah, part of dealing with your urges.
Right.
I think that the second level is where you're actually committing these actions, but you're committing it personally and in private. I mean, you're committing sin. You could be committing great sins, but the fact that you have, I guess, some level of fear not to be public with these actions, it gives you some sense of dignity, some semblance of that. But the third level is being a part of the community.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the third level is being a part of this community, whether or not you can be a straight person and part of the community, and I'd say you could argue that's worse than being privately gay, because at this point you're not just being sinful for yourself, you're advocating it for everyone.
Right.
You're poisoning society, the youth. You're supporting a whole movement that's totally ideologically
that's a great
opposed to
point.
Islam.
That's a great point that you make. Like, you could have these same-sex desires, and you're just controlling them. And then you have another person who has opposite sex, is quote-unquote straight, and is publicly advocating for LGBT and is trying to spread and normalize this kind of terrible behavior. Then that person is actually in a worse position. Like, their iman is at stake, whereas the person who has the same-sex desires is homosexual. They might be rewarded a great deal for their struggle. They will be rewarded by Allah for struggling against their nafs and against their shahawat and so forth. So that's a great contrast that you're drawing here.
Yeah, and I definitely think there's a big issue with the youth, with the youth. A lot of them are part of that community. A lot of people who support it.
Yeah.
And they'll say, I'm not gay personally, but I think they should be allowed to do whatever. And that's absolutely not what we should be advocating for as Muslims. And a lot of youth take this position up because of just, it's normal to them now. It's so normalized, this behavior, what they see, what they hear.
So in your high school, has there been any student that has come out as transgendered and like insists on being, called a certain gender?
Yes, I was actually in the men's restroom with that transgender person.
Oh, really?
Which was definitely a very awkward experience for me. But there's plenty of people who go along that, not just transgender, no gender,
in your high school?
In my high, this is normal now.
Oh my
God! It's not something special, and it's terrible. And like I know, like one of my Muslim friends who isn't that strongly practicing, she doesn't cover up and do all that. She's personally friends with one of these transgender people, and whenever I'm a very outspoken guy, so whenever I comment about that, she'll get very angry. People in general around me in school, are more liberally inclined.
Right. And
I get a lot of flack for, even opening my mouth or even just questioning the idea that somebody who has female genitals is in the male's bathroom. I never thought that. I guess the point where me questioning that is weird.
Yeah.
But apparently
now you're the bad guy.
Yeah, I'm the bad guy for saying, maybe females should go to the female bathroom.
Yeah, you're the bad guy for saying that there are even like two genders, and it's crazy. I'm really shocked that it's like become normalized. I thought it was just beginning, like to have people, like I've heard of high schools where like the prom queen and prom queen are trans, or like the homecoming queen is actually a guy.
Yeah, the person I'm talking about won homecoming king.
Oh,
as a female.
Wow.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so this is a very bad state in schools, and then you as a high schooler, you're saying that there are other Muslims, and they're active with your MSA too?
Yeah, and there's people in my MSA who, will openly support this stuff. Like there's a gay straight alliance at our school as well, and they'll openly support them. They'll openly support their friends who in LGBT. They'll be parts of the gay straight alliance. I remember at one of the club days they put the gay straight alliance table right next to the MSA table.
Oh wow!
Which was a very very interesting day.
Yeah, this is a big issue, and the sad thing is we don't have many of the popular celebrity imams and scholars talking about this openly because it's so politically incorrect. And when I ask them personally, like, why aren't you talking about this? They say, oh, well, this is not really a big problem. Like, this is not really affecting anyone. Muslims know that this is not halal. I'm like, no, they don't. They have no clue about these issues.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
In my school, I would focus more on this issue if there weren't bigger fish to fry, I guess you could say. I have to focus a lot on fundamentals of Islam in my MSA because a lot of our youth don't understand the basic tenets of Islam, and so when you have something like LGBT or fornication or drugs, alcohol, they're easily tempted. They're swayed by this. They're miseducated about this because they don't even know the 5 pillars of Islam.
Yeah, they don't know the 5 pillars. They don't know what it means to submit. What does it mean to submit in Islam?
I guarantee you, 8 out of 10 Muslim youths could not properly explain what taqwa is.
Yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem. But I think that this is such a widespread issue that it needs to get addressed somehow by someone, and it needs to not be like a small little footnote because you're too embarrassed or you're worried about being slammed as a homophobe for giving the correct Islamic position on these acts, because everyone is being implicated and there's a deliberate effort. Like you mentioned, they put the LGBT club's table right next to the MSA. Why did they do that? I mean, that's very deliberate. Muslims are the last group that really is trying to stick to a traditional Orthodox position that we do not accept this kind of behavior. And so they're trying really hard to get Muslims onto the bandwagon. And where is the defense? Like, where is the protection from this kind of negative influence? Yeah. All right, let me pause for a second and see if there's any comments. One comment: remove soy from your diet. I don't know what that's referring to.
Oh, so soy boys.
Soy boys. Amir says, do they play the Dancing Queen song for the transsexual home queen? I don't know what
they play. At that club day, the GSA table was like jamming out to all their pop and whatnot.
Wow! Right next to
the 17 Dancing Queen, all that stuff.
So then
they're definitely very flamboyant.
Yeah, the MSA is at the table calling people to like Salah, calling people to, we have Friday prayers, we have halaqat, we're going to learn Quran, and then you have this other side.
I was seriously considering like investing in a speak because they were drowning us out. I couldn't even get to the table because they're right next to us with a speaker or whatever. So I'm seriously considering investing in like just a speaker and blasting the adhan or something like that. Because that's just what we need to get attention. You know?
Yeah, blast the lecture like from a speaker going off on Qawm Lut.
Just blast anyone telling the story of Qawm Lut.
Yeah, or the ayat. You can blast the ayat from the Quran. They won't know what's being said.
No, it's just about. come find out.
Yeah, come find out what these verses mean. All right. So this question is very awkward. I am American. I am American. Okay. Let's see what they do. So when they ask it.
3, 2, 1.
Look at that guy in the back. He went all the way to the wall. he really has something to prove.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I swear I'm not trying to make this controversial, but I somewhat disagree because I'm first Afghan.
Oh.
Then I would say I'm American.
So I do
I'm
identify
Afghan. So I somewhat disagree because I'm actually not American. I'm Afghan. So shouldn't you be like strongly disagree? Why are you somewhat disagree?
I think she's just born in America. It's like, I associate with my Afghani identity more. Like that kind of. She's probably not even an Afghani citizen.
Okay. Yeah, but
it's just people.
But why is this like an interesting question? If it's just like about people's nationality, are you American? Like
because I'm American. American isn't just citizen. It's an idea. No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
Does my passport say American or not? Yes, I'm American. No, I'm not. It's not a complicated question. And they're just trying to make it. It's not that deep, man.
Yeah, it's like almost like a loyalty test. Like, how American are you really? Do you love our country enough?
Exactly. It's what the TSA would ask someone. It's like, are you American? Do you love? You pray on a sedeja with the stars and stripes on it. Like, how committed are you to our nation?
Yeah. Do you have the flag as your hijab at home?
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see what they say.
first. And so what is America? So for me, that identity, because I grew up not feeling like a minority. And I was always proud American. I didn't talk about my Syrian heritage. I wasn't familiar with it. And then the last decade, it was like, whoa, I kind of whitewashed my history to be the proud American, to fit in. And everyone was like, if you took off your scarf, you'd be just another white girl. Mm-hmm. It's just, there's a battle. Like, I'm proud American, but it's like, what does American mean right now?
Yeah.
With everything that's happening.
As a Muslim who just happens to be black in America, I've never not known this to be my country. Because that's what this country was founded on. That's my being able to be who you are.
I thought the country was founded on white supremacy. That's what I've been hearing.
It was founded on male supremacy, white supremacy.
No, man. You're just a homophobe misogynist.
Yeah,
Didn't you hear what she said?
I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm a cis white. I'm a cis het.
Yeah.
But I've had to write so many essays on what is an American. It just means you're born here. It doesn't mean anything. Like, I would never say I'm proud to be an American because I didn't pick being an American.
You what?
What is there to be? What is there to be proud of? Like, oh, I was born on this soil instead of the soil 100 miles north of here.
Wow, man.
What's special? What's to be proud of? Like, my parents had me here. I don't get it.
Oh man, you're making me laugh so much.
No,
I agree with you 100%, but it's just funny when you're explicitly saying like that. Okay.
I'm just trying to be real.
Yeah, you're keeping it 100.
I'm keeping it 100. I'm keeping it 100 right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's very silly. Like, I think I've always found nationalism very silly. Like, this is a country, it has good aspects and it has bad aspects. Every country in the world is like that. What is really significant about where you are born, like what defines who you are is what you believe. What defines who you are is what you believe in, how you behave, how you live your life, how you treat others. This is what makes you a human being, and that's how we should evaluate people, is based on that. Not some of these other characteristics, like the color of your skin or your nationality. So I agree with you 100%, but I think that
you're keeping it 100 right now.
Yeah, I don't think Fox News is going to be happy if they get a clip of this.
Absolutely not.
Okay, let's see.
Listen, you got to be proud of. The only thing you can be proud of is being Muslim, and even then, pride is not something. It's not Islamic, really. How much the hadith about if you have a mustard seed worth of pride in your heart, you're not entering Jannah.
Right.
Pride
Arrogance.
is, we shouldn't be bragging about how proud I am to be an American. I'm more American than you. I have a whole collection of American hijabs and scarves, and you shouldn't even be proud to be a Muslim. You should be thankful to be a Muslim, if anything.
Yeah, thankful, and you should
Allah
feel proud of Islam. Like you are so happy that you can be a part of this religion.
Yeah, and everywhere you can, even then, I prefer to be thankful than prideful. Even though Islam is technically your choice, so you can be proud of your choice. Whoever Allah guides is who He chooses to guide. So we should be thankful that Allah chose us to guide us to Islam, to give us this opportunity, whether we're born into Islam or not. The fact that we find this is something we should be thankful for. It's nothing that we have does not come from Allah. Everything that we have is a gift from Allah.
Right. Yeah, these are very good points.
Is from ourselves.
Yeah, mashallah. That's very, very important point. Jazakallah khairah. Okay, let's see what else they say.
Freedom to be that and not feel persecuted. And so, yeah, that's how I live my life. And I'm not going to let anybody force me or talk me into thinking differently.
And that's the end.
Everyone claps.
Clap, everyone hugs.
How you always bring up.
I don't know where's the hijab that they're talking about so much because they're all hugging each other.
So I have a
Okay, so this is, do all Muslims think the same? I think that what we realize is that according to this, all Muslims do think the same because they're agreed on every single thing almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's...
you pick it. I'd like to just throw in just one Wahhabi guy into that and
Wahhabi?
see what happens. It's one Sufi, one Wahhabi.
It can be just you. They should throw you in the mix and see what happens.
Yeah, that would be a very, very interesting video. Then people would think no Muslim was on the same agenda. I mean, I wish the Ummah was that united, not on those specific points, but if only we had that consensus.
Yeah,
But
that's a great point. They're uniting Muslims on batil instead of on haqq. They're uniting us on falsehood.
Yeah.
So it's very sad. But yeah, I think that this... So you're saying that this is actually... It's not completely representative, but these ideas, you hear Muslims in your MSA talk like this and think like this, right?
Yeah, there's definitely... we do have our minority of students who are... fall in line to the kind of progressive Muslim thinking. And again, I know it's very gendered, so a lot of the guys I know will be more, maybe this guy's dad is a Shia, but this guy, he's more involved in the message, he's there. They'll be more attached to Orthodox Islam. But you always find, more often than not, the females who are more straying from Islam. But, I try to do what I can as president to educate the people, to try to turn Muslims into leaders for their own community, for their families.
MashaAllah. Yeah, that's great. But what do you think? What do you think will help yourself or your MSA, these kinds of students that you're talking about? What kind of expectation or request do you have of Muslim leadership to address these things?
I think it's not, a leadership issue is something, but I think fundamentally the issue is our families. I think if their leadership can urge parents to educate their Muslims, the Muslim children, to give them Muslim environments, that'd go a long way. I'm president of one of the committees at my mosque, where my committee deals with boys, young boys, 8 to 12, that kind of age range. And we focus on building the foundations of Islam.
Right.
Not that many kids show. I mean, say 40 kids show up to our events like every week. That's 40 kids out of the hundreds in this area. How many of these? And a lot of these kids, our lessons are the only Islamic teachings they're learning. At home, their parents aren't putting in the work to teach them about Islam. You need to work with your children throughout all stages of their life. You can't just throw them at the masjid and hope that they become shuyukh.
Right.
That's not how it works. It's a dual effort. What we do at the masjid, the few hours we have with the few children that come every week isn't going to build up a solid foundation. We help, but it has to be a family effort. And I think our Muslim leaders need to encourage families to be much more involved in our children's education, especially their Islamic education.
Right.
That's the only way to combat this. All these
But what
issues
if the parents don't know what to teach either?
What if what?
What if the parents really don't know what to teach either? Like, I don't know.
No, they have to.
They have to learn too?
They have to learn too, absolutely. I mean, Islam, there's no cap onto how much, this is how much I need to know about my deen and then I'm done. Even, there are 80-year-old scholars who are still learning about our deen today, and they've devoted their life to learning about the deen. So who are we to be like, all right, I've memorized this much Quran, I know this much hadith, I'm done going out of my way to learn more about Islam. That's not, a kind of thought we should have. Everyone should be constantly learning.
Right.
No matter who you are, how old you are, what you do, you should always be striving to learn more about the deen. And especially you need to focus on the fundamentals. The fundamentals of deen are what our children and what our youth are lacking in so much. It's not the complicated issues that people are getting hung up on. It's the fact that these people aren't praying 5 times a day. The fact that these people aren't in constant dhikr. That they don't have taqwa in Allah. If people prayed 5 times a day, if people took their Islamic obligations seriously, we wouldn't have issues like this.
Well, what about, just to push back a little bit, what about that one lady in the video who says, I pray 5 times a day, she's reading Quran every day, right?
Oh, she reads Quran every day.
She was talking about her relationship with her creator, so she has all those bases covered, but she was the one who was saying the most outlandish stuff out of all of them, right?
Yeah. I think that's just an issue with her perspective. If she's the one, praying 5 times a day, she's the one reading the Quran, is she really reading the Quran though? If you're just saying the words, like, just because you're reading it doesn't mean you're getting anything from it. There's tafsir. You have to understand what you're reading. If somebody is really reading the Quran and really devoting themselves to praying, then they will turn out as good Muslims who stay on the deen. But if you're just praying for the sake of praying and you're not putting thought into what you're doing, if you just read Quran for the sake of reading Quran and not putting thought into what you're reading and reflecting on those words, then it's pointless. Clearly she wasn't reflecting on those words if she was willing to say there's no advocacy of violence. And clearly she's trying to fit into she's trying to fit Islam into this box that it's not going to fit into.
I think that
she's trying so hard.
I think that a lot. I agree with you. I think that education is a big part of it, and definitely the value of taqwa, the value of ikhlas, really taking salah seriously. And these are values that need to be imparted on youth and even adults, as you mentioned. I think along with that, when I look at a video like this and I see what they're saying and how they're responding to the questions, it's like a script. Like they're just repeating talking points that we hear over and over and over again from different parts of the Muslim community, from different leaders. And I think that those talking points are fundamentally flawed and they're fundamentally confusing. And so if there's just better instruction, like going back to education, if the instruction was just better and avoided some of these traps and some of these kinds of more superficial ways to address problems, then that would trickle down and that would result in a situation where you don't have this mess, right, that we see in this particular video. Like everything that they were saying was so cliche. Like, oh, there's no violence in Islam. Oh, Islam, no one can tell women how to dress. Things like that. There's no conflict between LGBT and Islam. Men and women are equal. These are all liberal talking points, and the reason that these Muslims are saying it, because they weren't talking as liberals, they were talking as Muslims. Like, they think that what they're saying is justified in Islam, but what gave them that misunderstanding? What gave them that misimpression? Because you can have someone who is liberal as a Muslim, but they won't try to justify their liberalism through Islam. But they were using the Quran, they were using their understanding of Islam to justify the positions that they were taking. And I think that's very scary, because that means that the religion has been distorted in their minds.
Yeah, I think it's mainly a youth issue now because of the internet. I'd say that also plays a huge role. You know, this whole idea of wokeness and being aware of your position in society, your privilege, all this. The access to social media is what gives him all these different lenses, and this liberal lens, this progressive individualistic lens, is what's corrupting them even more. Because back then, during your time, even before your time, because internet was still around during your time, but social media didn't take flight as much, right?
No. We had Facebook was introduced when I was in college.
Yeah, so during your time, I think there wasn't as much like there was fitna. There was a lot of fitna that existed, but you had to go out of your way to seek it. I feel like now, because
not
of the
even
internet,
to seek it, just to see it.
Yeah, just to see it. Now fitna finds you. Now you're exposed. You're bombarded with it. How much kids programming has half-naked women and LGBT and all these progressive values. How much of our young teens or preteens are seeing all this content on YouTube and whatnot? What are they really watching? What are they really learning? What their favorite content creators on YouTube with their with their own political views. They just because some kid just watching, you might just think, oh, this kid he's just watching a Minecraft video or this video game, but he idolizes that person creating those videos, and if his idol falls into something politically and advocates for that, he's gonna listen to his idol. Right?
That's interesting.
Even something that seems harmless can be harmful if you don't monitor what they're doing and understand the implications, what it could do, and make sure you educate them on it.
Right. Yeah, that's very interesting. Like, social media has been such a big problem in influencing Muslim youth, and so that's why I try to put out content like this, where there is an alternative perspective, and there is some outlet that is trying to explain Islam in accordance with what Islam is, as opposed to a liberal distortion on Islam. So, alhamdulillah, I hope people benefited from this conversation and our reaction. One commenter was saying, Zuzu, saying, in NYC it's very common for Muslims to hold those beliefs as presented in the video. So some of our commenters agree that this video is not just a outlier. There are a lot of Muslims, unfortunately, who fall into this mindset. But alhamdulillah, we have hope that things will change and things will get better. Tariq, you still there?
Yeah, just turning off the video because of my battery.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, yeah.
I definitely agree.
Barakallahu feek. Sorry, go ahead.
I agree with your comments. You visited the area. We're right next to New York.
Right.
It's the same area. Like I guess the political makeup of the area is the same thing.
Right.
There's the same issues. Any big cities really is where you'll find, any place where you find liberals, mostly, is where you're going to find more of these Muslims. I mean, you live near a big city, Houston, which definitely is going to have more of these liberal, progressive Muslims than, say, Muslims in like more rural or suburban areas, or away from.
Yeah, there's definitely close to big cities you find more of these liberal perspectives. But, we pray to Allah, and Allah is the one who can change our situation, and we hope that things will get better, bi'idhnillah. Again, thank you so much, Brother Tariq, for spending your Saturday afternoon with me, talking about these important issues. Also, barakallahu feekum to all of the viewers. Hopefully, you benefit from this video, and inshallah, if you have any other ideas for Muslim Skeptic Live, if you have videos that you want us to react to or comment on, you can always leave a comment below this video for what you want to see, and we'll take that into consideration, inshallah. So until next time, again, I'm your brother Dan Haqiqatjou. You follow me online, and until next time, I'll see you, inshallah, with another edition of Muslim Skeptic Live. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.